Hi there, boys and girls. I'm Pastor Charles, and welcome to another weekly Bible story. Last week, we talked about being thankful and thanking God for the things that He's given us. I asked you guys to make some word webs of the things that you're thankful for, the things that God has given you that you want to say thank you to Him for. I didn't ask you guys to send them in, but I was surprised that we had some that got sent in. So I want to say thank you. So thank you very much for sending those in. I wanted to share them since we got them. So here are some word webs that Caden and Elise Hickey made for us. Caden made this one, and he's got some things on there that I didn't even think of to thank God for. He wanted to thank God for his pets, and also he has an entire section of his word web dedicated to Minecraft. That looks great. And then his sister Elise, she also put some things on there that I didn't think of. She thanked God for nature. She thanked God for animals and so many other things. So thank you guys both for sending those in. We will have something else at the end of this Bible story that everybody can send in to participate next week as well. How old are you going to be in 12 years? 12 years. That's a long time from now. Are any of you older than 12 years old? Probably not, right? I doubt it. But 12 years from now is a long time. First of all, how old are you now? Are you this old? This old? How about here? Here? More, less? I don't know where you are. But how do you know how old you're going to be in 12 years? Well, tell me if you've ever seen this before. Oh, yes, some of you have. If you're around this age, you probably haven't. But if you're here, you probably have. Yes, and you've definitely seen it once you've gotten to this point. These are what we call addition tables. I think they're called tables. I haven't been to school in a long time. But if you're a little bit on the younger end, all right, let me show you how this works. Let me show you how to add numbers together that are kind of big. You can probably add small numbers together, right? Like if I said that you had 3 fingers and you had 4 fingers, that's a lot of fingers, but how many is it? Well, you would add them together and say I have 7 fingers, right? But what do you do when you run out of fingers to count? You don't have 12 fingers plus 4 other fingers to count. You have to start taking your shoes off and count with your toes, right? Well, there's a little bit of an easier way to do that. What's 2 plus 4? 2 plus 4 makes 6, right? And then here's what you do with that extra number. You have a 1, and then there's an imaginary 0 here that you can't see. So 1 plus 0 is 16. So, if you are 4 years old today, in 12 years, you will be 16 years old. Holy cow, you're going to be driving cars, you're going to be about ready to graduate from high school. That's a long ways away. Or 12 plus 6, well, that, can you do your math real fast? 2 plus 6 is 8, okay, and 1 imaginary 0 is 18. Oh my word, you're about to go on to college if you're 6 years old right now. In 12 years, that's a lot of things are going to happen in your life. 12 plus 8, really simple. Can you figure it out? 20, all right, and then for those of you who are 9, you'll be 21. I'm sure you figured that out about 2 minutes ago as I started telling all this. And then I don't know what your age is, but imagine, do the math in your head if you want to, how old you're going to be in 12 years. 12 years is a really long time, right? Well, I want to tell you a Bible story today about 2 people who Jesus did miracles for, where 12 years of their life had gone by, and it plays an important role in both of their stories. Before I do, though, I want to tell you one more thing, just so you have a little bit of fun. It's actually my birthday today. While I am filming this for you, it is my birthday at this moment, all right? How old do you think I am? You have a guess? Well, I'll tell you what. Since we're talking about the number 12 and 12 years, I am 12 plus 15 years old today. If you want, you can pause the video and figure that out on your own. But, moving on. 2 different people in our story, both of them, 12 years, plays a big factor. First of all, Jesus. Kind of the center focus of all of our stories, right? Jesus, he and his disciples, they get off a boat, they come to a town, and when they get to the town, they're immediately met by a man named Jairus. And Jairus is very worried because he says, Jesus, my 12-year-old daughter is sick. There he is. That's the first person who has an important number of 12 in their life. Jairus' 12-year-old daughter is very sick, and she could die at any moment unless somebody heals her. Well, look no further than Jesus, right? Jesus has been healing people left and right across the land, so Jairus has come to the right place. So Jesus and his disciples, they start going to Jairus' house, and they're surrounded by so many people. I don't know what the most packed place you've been to is, but imagine just having people everywhere, so many people that you can barely move. It's like that. And in the middle of that crowd, there's a lady. And this lady, she's very sad. And the reason she's very sad is that she has had a medical problem where she has been bleeding on the inside of her body for guess how long? 12 years. Like we said, 12 years is a long time. Can you imagine having a problem where you were bleeding on the inside of your body for 12 years? The Bible says that she would go to doctors, and doctors couldn't help her. They couldn't figure out what was wrong. In fact, the doctors would actually make the problem worse on accident. And this caused other problems where she was unable to go to church, or they called it synagogue back then, because of this problem that she had. Everybody that she touched, every piece of clothing that she touched, everywhere she sat was considered unclean. And so people kept their distance from her for 12 whole years. This is horrible. And she desperately wants to be healed, and I don't blame her. And she believes, she knows that all she has to do, because Jesus is God, and he's so close to God, and he's so holy, so righteous, that all she has to do is touch the hem of his clothes, just the tip of his clothes, and she'll be healed. And so she walks up to him, she touches him, and then she is immediately healed. But Jesus, when this happens, he immediately feels that the power of God, not all of it, but part of it, has come out of him to heal somebody else. And Jesus turns around and says, "Who touched me? Who touched me?" And everybody's like, "Well, Jesus, you're in a huge crowd. Everybody is touching you." And the lady comes forth and she says, "I'm the one. I touched you. And I'm sorry, but I knew who you were. And I knew if I just touched the hem of your clothes that I would be healed of my problem." And she was so worried that Jesus was going to be mad at her. Jesus, of course, was not mad. Instead, Jesus looked at her and said, "Your faith has made you well. Your faith has healed you. Go and live your life." And this is a really great moment. So somebody's been healed, but hey, that's not the original problem, right? Jairus is over here and he's going, hello, my daughter is still about to die. Can we please come to my house now? He's pretty worried. He's pretty panicky. So they go over to Jairus' house. By the way, do you like how I keep switching direction with Jesus here? Amazing stuff. All you gotta do is change the feet. He completely changes the way he's walking. So they go over to Jairus' house, but they find some bad news. Because Jairus' daughter has already passed away. This 12-year-old girl died. And the people who were in Jairus' house taking care of her said, "Don't even bother Jesus anymore. It's over. It's done with. She's dead." And I can just imagine Jairus. I mean, can you imagine thinking, we were so close. They were so close to my house. If that lady hadn't touched Jesus, maybe he could have healed my daughter. Maybe that's what was going through his head. I don't know. But it's what would have gone through my head, if I'm being honest. And Jesus says to everybody there, why are you guys so worked up? Why are you so upset? This girl isn't dead. She's just sleeping. The people laughed at him. They were like, Jesus, you have lost it. You're crazy. We know that she's dead. And he goes, no. Everybody leave the house. So everybody leaves the house except for Jairus, his wife, the daughter, and then just a few of Jesus' disciples. And Jesus walks over to this little girl. And he says to her, get ready for this, you ready? He says, honey, it's time to wake up. When you have to get ready for school or get ready to go to church, when your parents come in and wake you up saying, it's time to get up, let's go. That's what Jesus just did for this little girl who was dead. And guess what? This dead girl just gets up. She comes back to life and immediately, just like you would in the morning, she gets out of bed, she starts walking around. Jesus just healed this girl, fully restored her to life and said, all right, she needs some food, just like you do in the mornings when you wake up and you need breakfast. I mean, it's so humorous, it's so funny in the way that Jesus healed this girl. But obviously, Jairus was happy, his wife was happy, the girl was happy. So Jesus healed two different people with two very different stories over what had happened in the previous 12 years. But he healed them in two totally different ways. What do I mean by that? Well, what I mean is the woman in our story, she got healed the exact way that she expected. She believed that all she had to do was touch Jesus' clothes and she would be healed. And she did that, and it happened. Jairus, on the other hand, he believed that Jesus could come into his home. He could save his daughter before she died. But Jesus didn't do it that way. Jesus did it his own way and waited till the girl was dead to bring her back to life and heal her. Here's the truth. Jesus can do things however he wants. Jesus is not someone who we can control. Do you know what that word means, control? C-O-N-T-R-O-L. Control means believing that you can make something or someone do whatever you want. So when I was your age, one of my favorite toys to play with was remote controlled race cars. Maybe you've seen these, maybe you have these, I don't know. But basically you would have this little controller in your hand, notice the word controller, and you had a car with an antenna on it. And your controller would send a signal to that car, and you could drive it around your driveway, or you could drive it around your garage. And they were so fun. I loved them. They were the coolest toys ever. Also, something that I played with a lot as a kid and still play now a good bit is video games. And what do you have in your hands when you're playing a video game? You're playing with a controller, right? The controller, you move the thumbstick and you press the buttons, you click the triggers, and it makes the characters that you see on your screen do whatever you want. It makes figures jump, right? It makes soccer players score goals. It makes the car on your screen go in circles, right? Controllers control things. And people think that when they pray to God and when they ask God to do things for them, that is a way for them to control God and get whatever they want. We can be guilty of that at times. You know, some people, when they're praying to God, they say, God, I want you to give me a bicycle. And they think that because they ask God to give them a bicycle, that he has to give them a bicycle. But that's not how prayer works, and that's not how God works. God can do things however he wants, and he doesn't have to answer our prayers the exact way that we asked. Maybe you're not praying to God for a bicycle. Maybe you're praying to God for something much more serious. And maybe your whole family is praying together for something much more serious. Maybe you have somebody that you love who is sick, that you really want Jesus to heal. And you're praying, and that is not getting answered the way that you thought it would, just like Jairus. Maybe you have somebody in your family who really needs a job, and that job has not come yet, and you're waiting and you're confused. Maybe there's somebody in your family who you really want to have a relationship with God. They don't know Jesus, they don't love Jesus the way that you do, but you really want them to so that they can be in heaven one day. And they haven't yet. And you're confused and you say, God, I asked you to do this for me. Why aren't you doing it? The simple fact of the matter is, your prayers do not control God. We pray so that we can rely on God, depend on God, trust in God, build our relationship with God, but it's not so that we can control God. Both Jairus and this lady, they did the right thing. They knew that they needed Jesus' help, and they went to Jesus for help. And for one of those people, Jesus helped them in the exact way that they had in their mind. But for another person, Jesus did not help them in the exact way they thought. I don't know what it is you're praying for, whether it's very important or slightly less important. But I want you to know that just because Jesus doesn't answer the prayer the way that you expected it to happen, that does not mean that God does not hear your prayer. It also does not mean that God does not love you. Of course God loves you. Of course God hears your prayer. Do your parents always say yes to you? They don't always do the things that you ask them to do because they have something better in mind. But you know your parents love you. It's the same with God. He loves you, and even when he doesn't answer a prayer the way you expected, he still loves you. Even when he says no, even when you have to wait, and even when you get exactly what you expected right away. I want to close on this. There's a story called The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. It's part of a big series called The Chronicles of Narnia. Maybe you've read it before. It's one of my favorite books, all right? One of the figures in that book, his name is Aslan. And Aslan is a lion. And the lion is actually supposed to represent Jesus in the story The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And there's four human characters who enter into this world of talking animals and magical creatures. And they're talking to these beavers. That's right, I said beavers. If you haven't read the book, it'll make sense once you read it. And they're talking to these beavers and asking about this figure named Aslan. And I want to read you what the beaver tells the kids and what the kids say back. Mr. Beaver says, Aslan is a lion. The lion. The great lion. Oh, said Susan. I thought he was a man. Is he quite safe? I shall feel rather nervous about meeting a lion. Safe, said Mr. Beaver. Who said anything about safe? Of course he isn't safe. But he's good. He's the king, I tell you. God isn't safe. He's not tame. He's not something that you can control. But he's good, and he loves you. And even though he won't always answer your prayers exactly the way you expect, that's a good thing. Because God is not a God who you can control. Hey, since we're talking about control this week and controllers, I thought you guys might want to show me what your favorite video games are, the things that you like to play when you're at home. So maybe you have a Nintendo or a PlayStation at home. Let me see what you like to play. If you want to send a quick picture of you playing your favorite video game or something like that. I'm sure lots of you love playing Mario, Mario Kart, Super Smash Bros., Minecraft. I know a lot of you are in that Minecraft category. Maybe you have a game that I have never heard of that you want to tell me about. All right. One of my favorite games to play is FIFA. It's a soccer game. I also like playing Super Smash Bros. And some of that other stuff. But Legend of Zelda. Got to shout out Legend of Zelda. I love those games. But let me see what your favorite games are. And maybe you're like, I don't like playing video games. That's lame. That's boring. There's a lot of different things you can control. You can send in. Send in your own remote control race car if you have one, or even a puppet is something that you can control, right? So make a puppet and send that in if you want to. I would love to see all the different things that you control, all right? Have a great week, and we'll talk to you next time.